Greetings, mortals, and welcome to actually having weird issues. Time.
So, I've been actually trying to get started on my stream for the last little bit now, and I've been having some problems with Firefox locking up my machine, which is, not optimal. So, we'll see. Can I get... Okay, it looks like I'm in the chat here. Do I have 333 followers? That's funny. I'll have to tell for everybody. Am I live? Because I don't seem to be live here. Let's refresh this. So this does indicate that I'm live. Okay, so it looks like I should be live. I should be in the chat. So I should be able to see people. Unfortunately, I have to do it on my phone because for whatever reason, my browser's screwed up and I'm not going to fix it right now. So let's see. When last we left off, we had just started the sort of more serious expansion in this playthrough. I was getting a little stressed because I don't think that I necessarily had sort of an optimal start here. I made a few key critical errors here, and I was a little upset with myself, and tempted to restart. But I don't really want to restart because of the fact that if I restart, I have I'm going to be restarting in a patch that I don't want to be restarting in this patch because the new patch is about to come out. So why do I want to practice an opening for a patch? Who knows what's going to happen, right? So rather than do that, I'm going to just see what happens if I just wing it. So rather than have like a very specific plan of action here, I don't get a lot of practice in the late game because I just don't bother finishing into the late game very often. So one of the things that we need to do here, I think, is we need to get as its independence and guaranteed by the Ottomans. So we need to be at war with the Ottomans before we can declare this war. So the Ottomans are allied with Avaria. They're in a coalition against Bharat, which is fine. They're the only people in it. So if I were to declare, they're only allied with Avaria, so I don't have to worry about that. If I declare on Karakuyunlu, then I end up in a war with them and the Ottomans. If I declare on Fars, I end up in a war with Fars and the Ottomans. Do I have a truce? I do not. I don't have a truce with Fars, so I think that this set of wars is going to involve first declaring on Fars and then continuing on to the next folks along the line. I could try to secure Gouge here. I don't actually think it's that important. We're going to go ahead and pop this, I think. I actually don't need to pop this yet. I'll wait until next year probably, simply because we are going to be declaring once we get our troops in position. Do I need this army? I do not need this army. This army I do need, though. So this army we're going to pop over here. We're going to grab this fleet. This is only half of the fleet. The fleet's over here. They both have the ability to move 76,000 troops around. I don't really think there's much reason for both of these fleets to be together anymore. I have 37 Carracks in each of these fleets. That's more than sufficient. So this fleet is going to come to Pegu, pick up this army, and we can continue on. So Ming we have a truce with for the next 6 years. Japan we have a truce with for the next 9 years. So we're not going after Japan again for a while. We're going after Ming again reasonably soon, but it's going to be still a moderate amount of time before we're going after them. It looks like China does in fact have a negative modifier to their mandate growth, so they will be starting to lose mandate. The mandate, I don't think, matters that much, honestly. The mandate is not going to be reducing at a rate that is terribly relevant to our interests. Oh, hey, Airman. Just imagining a giant umbrella. Seems terrible. I don't know. Well, if you think of it as the modern Indian nation state, that would probably not be optimal. India is one of the most corrupt nations in the world in terms of their politics, but and certainly one of the most dysfunctional governments in the world. But if in practice, like basically any feudal society is basically the same, right? Feudal societies are feudal societies. We've got a feudal society here that has embraced the ideas of humanism and has a parliament that they started very early on. So I would think that in terms of the historical, like, you know, how good would it be to live in a hegemony under this India? It's hard to say. It's hard to say how that would transition into the modern world. I would think, honestly, that separatism would continue to be a problem forever, and that you would never be able to get a hegemony over the entire world that would actually function. Singapore has a British-style parliamentary democracy with, I think, some tweaks. I don't think it's quite the same as the British system, but it's very similar. It's certainly based off of the British Parliament. So, but Singapore is kind of weird in that there's only one viable party in the system, because the other, basically the precepts of the current ruling party, right, the People's Action Party, are fundamentally meritocratic, right? Like meritocracy is one of the core components of their system, which means that the people who are the best at governing are the people who have the most vested interest in the PAP being in charge. So the opposition parties have a very difficult time actually getting any meaningful degree of power. So while there are elections and anyone hypothetically could take power at any given election, in practice the same group has been in power for the entire time, which has led to a large degree of stability, but also leads potentially to issues down the line if that party sort of stops living up to the ideals of meritocracy and their sort of weird hybrid of socialism and capitalism that they've got as a fundamental strategy, right? So it's an interesting dynamic, and so far it seems to be working very well. I don't think that the problem of inheritance has necessarily been solved, but unlike most countries, I think that Singapore has a pretty solid baseline for being able to deal with the issues, the fundamental issues that come from basically every time you replace your current government, your next government, how do you choose who's going to be in charge? You're generally going to get a mix of results. So some years you're going to have good government, some years you're going to have a worse one. That's the problem with inheritance, right? Is that you can have an amazing ruler, and then you lose your amazing ruler, and now you have some idiot in charge. And with the idiot in charge, nothing gets done correctly, and the things that do get done are things that you don't want to have happen, right? Let's see. So I don't know that any government has necessarily solved that problem, but Singapore has been much more robust in its ability to... okay, so if I just hit escape to cancel out of that, it actually cancels the rebel suppression. That's good to know. So, in terms of whether Singapore has an ideal parliament, I mean, I don't think there is necessarily an ideal parliament. I don't know that there's advantages and disadvantages to each system. The parliamentary system that Singapore has, that they inherited from Britain, is good in some ways, bad in others. The fundamentally judicial-based system for like crime and punishment is in some ways good, in some ways bad. So I would say that rather than saying that the fundamental government form is better or worse, the ideology of Singapore is more coherent than any of the ideologies of other political parties in the world, if that makes sense. So, like, if you look at the belief system of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the United States, both parties have fundamentally like self-contradicting ideas within their build. Does that make any sense? So, like, as an example, you have the association of the extremely religious folks, the extremely specifically Christian people, with right-wing ideology in America, which doesn't make any sense because Christian religious dogma is inherently left-wing, right? Like, if you look at any of the things that, if you look at any of the things that Jesus said, they are inherently left-wing, right? He is extremely left. So you end up with this weird situation where people are kind of like undermining their own belief system, and people on the left do the same stuff, right? You have a lot of weird, like, so as an example, people on the left are often associated with things like the organic, food movement. But the organic food movement is, in many ways, inherently anti-science, right? It's inherently against modern technology and modern science and modern methods. So you have this contradiction, or at the very least an apparent contradiction, that is not easy to sort of resolve. In Singapore, you basically have a government that's been put under the principle of, well, we are going to create a meritocracy where the best person has the ability to get, the best results. That means in our education system, we need to be supporting the best students, but it also means that we have to figure out how to get the best results out of every student, right? So that means separating people into different tiers. It means emphasizing a lot on education. But because the fundamental design of the education system is to teach people as much as possible, they're not being presented with any particular ideology, right? So, like, if you look at American schooling, the ideologies being taught by American schools are fundamentally pushing the sort of American value systems, right? And they have a tendency to deliberately hide aspects of history that they don't think, present America in a positive light because they want to inspire nationalism. Things of that nature, which are trouble. There's very little of that in Singapore because the core component, like the core thing that is the actual value of society, is core competency and meritocracy. And those are the actual core values of the society. People actually desire that. Because when Singapore was founded, very recently, because Singapore wasn't a thing until very recently, like 50 years ago, everyone was a slave to the British. So everyone who's in Singapore was, within a couple of generations ago, in the slave class. And because they were in the slave class, and that's not entirely fair, because, like, obviously there's a big difference between someone who's working as a menial laborer for the British and someone who's working as, like, a translator or something like that for the British. Those are very, very different things, right? And so they are in distinctly different castes, but none of them were on top. The British were on top. And so when they created the PAP is as old as the country, and when they created the political party, their fundamental core tenet was we want everyone in the country to have the opportunity to succeed. The advantage of that, both from a perspective of, well, there's a lot of advantages to that kind of mentality. Anyway, the basic gist is that Singapore is a very interesting nation for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons that it's so interesting is because their core values system is one that sort of makes sense and just kind of works in a way that most value systems simply don't, because people don't necessarily care to make their systems internally consistent. Because most value systems are not meant to be internally consistent. Most value systems are meant to propagate the desires of a particular class of generally wealthy and powerful people. And who that is depends on the nation and the timing, right? So anyway, it's an interesting dynamic, but we've won the Shades of Shiraz, so that's good. We've now got ticking war score. And we set the Ottomans as co-belligerent, which means that every province that we take here, that we take control of, is a province. We actually have quite a few peeps here. This is Chama. This is so you can pop over here, I guess? Question mark. I'm a little concerned about sending these guys up here, but it is desert, so it's not like we're going to run into a penalty. It does look like the Ottomans have sent 75,000 troops up to Syria, so we should be able to have a pretty decent amount of time, at the very least, where we can continue forward. So our goal here is to try and take as many forts as humanly possible here, and basically, as in, we want to win a war where we take a bunch of forts from the Ottomans, because by taking... Oh! I will gladly accept this. That'll speed me things up dramatically. I didn't realize that someone would give me knowledge sharing about an alliance, actually. Alright, we're just going to pop over here, because I don't think that we're going to be able to stay over here indefinitely. I think that they're going to start showing up. Now, the key is that what I'm looking to do is actually just take as many forts as humanly possible. But I need, because of the fact that they are a co-belligerent, they're not the primary antagonist in this war, I do need to take this stuff in between. So I actually think I'm just going to move these guys to here. We have now a pretty sizable army here. And I don't want to... I don't want to suffer any more attrition than I have to. But we've taken this fort. We're going to move these guys down south. This will give us more vision, which is good. And we're going to dive these guys here. Do we want... I don't know where these guys are going, actually. Let's... Rather than do this, this is marsh. I think we're going to pop up here with this army. We're actually going to split this army in half. We're going to send half of it at a time. These guys are going to pop up to here, I guess. Do I want to do that? No. Actually, I'm going to send them to here instead. They don't have a fort here, which means that I can take this territory without in trouble. And they do have 27,000 troops popping this way. So the hope here is if they're sending those troops down there, that I can actually get 70,000 troops in one location sufficient. many troops do the Ottomans have total? The Ottomans have 200,000 troops. 27,000 down here. A bunch of ships here. They have 36,000 troops just chilling over here. Yeah, no, Singapore is actually not particularly close to sort of like Central Asia. It's actually quite far away. The let's see. I'm not even sure how far away it is. It's pretty dang far. Like, it's easy to not be able to easily judge the distances of things, because it's just hard to gauge distance. Because if you look at any map, the distances on the map are just wrong, right? Like the way that the center of the map versus the top of the map looks, there's always going to be irregularities, because it turns out that you can't make a round object. You can't accurately show a round object on a flat surface without any irregularities, which is just kind of interesting. But anyway, and the standard methodologies by which we account for that are actually like the worst we have, it turns out. Which makes sense, because of course the standard is going to be the worst we have, because if we have a better one, if we have worse ones than that, nobody's talking about them, right? If it's worse than the default, then why would anybody be talking about it? Let's see here. So we've now got another fort that's going to be ticking down soon. I don't know if this is a good idea here, actually. We've got a sizable deficit of troops. Let's see how this goes. Because I'm concerned that they're going to jump in on this army here in the marsh. And it does not look like that's what's going to happen. So we're going to leave these guys here. We're going to leave these guys here for right now. And what I'm looking for here is, I don't know where these guys are going, but it looks like they're going to try to siege down one of these forts or something. These guys are actually going to, these guys here are going to pull out to here. These guys are going to chill there as well. This will block this army immediately from crossing, and then we will be able to lock them out. 12,000 troops versus 14. This is going to be trivially a wipe. And let's see, we can now go to the next fort, I guess. I'm not 100% happy with this, because I'm playing safe here, I'm keeping a lot of stuff around. And the question is, do I want to try to do a 100% war score victory right now against the Ottomans? This gives me this gives me aggressive expansion, which I do not like necessarily. But so basically what I'm debating here is, and I think that because I'm in like full on like wait and see mode, I think I might want to just sit on this for a while and continue tinkering with it. We've got 22,000 troops here. That is sufficient to wipe this army. And one of the nice things is that we don't need to worry about how the Ottomans feel about the war. We only need to worry about how their useless, ally feels about the war. They're not even allies, they're actually a protectorate. Or rather, not a protectorate, they're a guaranteed state. But conceptually, not completely dissimilar. Let's see here. Actually, conceptually, they are completely dissimilar concepts, but that's beside the point. Okay. We have wiped that army. That's good. And we don't need to worry about taking back the things that They have sieged down, but we do have to worry about... Okay, that's 36,000 troops right there. Do we want to... Yes. We're going to dive this army because we want this army wiped for a variety of reasons. But one of the reasons that we want to wipe this army is because while we can fight this army relatively easily, our vassals are going to have a hard time fighting them. And since our vassals are going to have a hard time fighting them, we want to make sure that we are taking them out ourselves. They're going to Molyneux. The problem is this is mountains. So with this being mountains, and let's see, what are you guys going to do? We're going to just keep expanding through here, I guess. Do I actually care about this front much? Not really, no. But there's 100,000 troops down there, which is not optimal. So they have 100,000 troops here. So if I were, as an example, to peace out, taking all of this, I would get a bunch of aggressive expansion. And actually, now that I think about it, any truces that I have with the Ottomans simply do not matter. So we're going to wait for this to tick, because this will tick. And we can't quite take all of this. So if we don't take this, that will do the job for us. So if we've got this line, then we have a good starting point for Bharati Arabia. So we're gonna do this. I think it's gonna take quite a while for them to core all of this, actually, because it turns out they do not have a coastal province, and none of this is coastal. Oops. I guess I could. I can't give them any of my coastal provinces now that I think about it. But it's probably fine. I'm just gonna give them all of this. This is gonna give them not even that much overextension. So this will give Bharati Arabia a pretty sizable boost. It will take away a couple of forts quickly from the Ottomans, which is great. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and grant Bharati Arabia a bunch of provinces now. Oh, sorry, I'm looking on the left to see the things. Am I conquering deserts? Yes, I am conquering deserts right now. And Iraq, we've already conquered parts of Iraq. I honestly do not know the Middle East very well in terms of its actual geography. I don't remember where modern states are in here. So you have, because the issue is that I don't remember how wide they are in terms of like the actual positioning here. So if I had all the like, whatchamacallits, if I had the boundaries, I could tell you where pretty much everything is, because I could just tell you this state relative to this other state, because I know that Pakistan is here, and then we have Iran. And then I think we have Afghanistan and then Iraq? Question mark. But like I would legitimately need to see a modern day map in order to be able to tell where modern day things are. Let's see here. But yeah, this area here is Egypt, right? So we're going to be basically annexing our way into that. You'll note that we have Bharati Egypt here. We're going to be annexing our way into there soon. We just haven't done it yet. So they have 100,000 troops chilling down here. They still have 36,000 troops chilling over here. And we now have the ability to, I guess, we kind of need to do this, now that I think about it. Do we have a fort around here? Yes, we do. So I guess we can't come in from this direction. What we can do, if we want, is we can immediately declare the next war. But we can't, because we need to give the things over. So we're going to give Bharati Egypt. First of all, we can pay off your debt, because I didn't realize you had that. This is Arabia. Perfect. So you have debt for some reason. We're going to give you Najran. This gives you overextension. Grand Province Dawasir. Grand Province Aflak. And Grant Province Yabrin. Grant Province Zufra. Qatar. Hufuf. Al Qatif. Grane. Basra. Avaz. And Helvetia. Okay, so they now have 57% overextension, which is fine. It's not great to have that much overextension, but it's fine. These guys are currently in my territory. So these guys are going to do this because they can. These guys are going to start moving down here. It looks like they are not going to be able to do that. And do we want to declare right this second? I think we might want to. Unfortunately, all of these guys are currently... the Northern Territories have 21,000 troops? Oh no, okay. I'm like, what? But you'll notice that we have all this huge vassal swarm over here, which is just super nice. Let's see. And so yes, we're going to declare on Karakoyunlu next. No? Shervin and Karakoyunlu. Avaria and Gilan. So Avaria, Gilan, Shervin, the Ottomans. So they have a rank 24 military. My overextension is supposedly dangerously high, but it's actually not. And I forgot to do this, so Bharati Japan, you can go ahead and take these because you are now under 100% overextension. And there we go. Anything else? This is a province that we actually do need to core. So let's do it. Anything that we need to worry about in terms of rebels? Where are you? Hargeisa. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well that's super interesting, but not super relevant. Okay, you guys are just going to pop together. That's all fine. I do have the ability to update my armies, which I should probably do eventually. So we've taken a couple more forts down here. This is going to reduce the total size of the sort of fortified area of the Ottomans. So these guys are actually going to... They're going to black flag the second they get in there, aren't they? Yes. Okay, so this army is going to split in half and do this. I think I'm going to get myself in position for the next fight rather than try to do this immediately. So... Do I want to... Yeah, I'm going to send these guys over here, I guess. And... Rather than declare right this second, I think that it's better for me if I pull back into a good position first. It's going to take so long to get these guys into a good position, though. So, it's fine. It'll allow us to recover some of our manpower. So these guys are going to wait until those guys are gone. Once they're gone, we will start moving. That way we can start accumulating manpower instead of losing it. It's tempting to flip my armies so that they're not all moving all at the same time. And I actually would like... I think that probably one of the most impactful military ideas for me would be... I think defensive gives you a reduction or an increase to your supply limit. Is that the case? It is not the case. Oh, does quantity do that for you? Yes, so you get a supply limit modifier of 33% from that, which is not bad. It's not that big a deal. I'm losing to some troops to attrition, but it's not that huge a deal. Okay, so that whole war took what, less than a year? I think less than a year. We took control of a decent quantity of territory from the Ottomans, and we are going to continue apace. Unfortunately, we do need to get our troops repositioned, and so some mistakes were made in that regard. I am tempted to do this differently. Gilan is allied with Shervin. Who is Shervin allied with? Bashkiria. Excuse me. I guess what we could do, actually, is instead of declaring on Gilan, we could declare as Shervin, not set Gilan as a co-belligerent, but then fully annex Gilan anyway. And just, we don't need to worry about Shervin itself. Shervin itself is irrelevant. We just take control of their capital and then move on. Once we've annexed this, we can give it to the Western Expanse, and then we can declare on Karakayunlu. With Karakayunlu on the list, we have the ability to start expanding this whole area. I don't think I want my Arabian nation to get any bigger than this way. I think I want them to expand west. So that will be a thing. And my client state has no unrest here to speak of, which is kind of weird. But that's fine. And, certainly not going to complain about it. And what else do we have to do here? We have one more province to core. We have 43% overextension. That's getting purged as we speak. And we have quite a considerable thing going here. So Hisapa is going to need to be annexed when I can. And I have a +1 with them. I'm not currently improving relations. We're going to start improving relations with them. And I need to get them happy with me. If I can annex Hisapa, then I will be in really, really good shape. And are there any other wars that I need to declare right this second? Don't need to declare on Portugal. Portuguese Louisiana is unfortunately going to be way stronger than my version of it, which is why they still exist. Let's see. Revolutionaries. So who's the revolution target? How would I even know that? I don't see a thing on the... This is a king. It's a kingdom. Okay, so I can actually see what they are. Do we have the revolution target yet? I don't know if we do yet. Okay, we've cored some stuff. Yarhoo. I don't know, actually, in this patch, how to become a revolutionary republic. Let's see. Well, the thing is that basically every group has a huge amount of infighting. Like, the thing that's important to remember about, this way that people squabble is that the amount of squabbling and infighting in England, or certainly in the United Kingdom, is actually way higher in a lot of ways than the amount of squabbling and infighting in the United States, despite the fact that the United States is orders of magnitude larger. There's nothing inherent about, do I want to get an extra diplomatic relations slot, or do I want national unrest reduction? I think I'm going to get the national unrest reduction. Let's go with that for now. Let's see. So the issues with like sort of any modern nation have to do with the very specific things of that modern nation's founding. There's nothing really inherent about any given group of people that increase or decrease in fighting, except for things like religion and stuff like that, right? Like certain religions are inherently more squabbly because of the fact that they basically part of their religion is disavowing other religions. So any Abrahamic religion is inherently abrasive. So that's like just an inherent part of the sort of monotheistic tenets, or pseudo-monotheistic in the case of all of them, question mark? I don't think so. I think it's pseudo-monotheistic in Christianity, but I think it's pretty solidly monotheistic in the others. I could be wrong on that. Because obviously Christianity isn't fully monotheistic because you have multiple, like, sort of avatars of the deity, like the supreme deity, right? So the whole concept of the Holy Trinity is very Hindu. Right, like it's a very Hindu concept. It's very simplistic avatar stuff. So like that's well established theology. Let's see. I think we're ready to declare this now. Bashkiria will not join. Gilan will. That's perfect for us. We're not going to set Gilan as the co-belligerent, but they are the ones that we are going to be going after. I'm going to go ahead and pop straight to you, and we're going to pop straight to you. And this is going to be our primary invasion force. So who is this? This is Yachama. Let's see. But in terms of entities that would be able to like potentially like have a stable global hegemony, Hinduism is actually like a Hindu nation is actually one of the few nations that you conceivably could get a global hegemony to work with, because of the fact that as far as the people in charge are concerned, everyone's religion is fine. So in terms of religious tolerance, it's pretty hard to beat a religion that says, oh, your God seems cool. And that's their whole thing, right? Is there's all these gods and they're all important and they're all like sort of, they're not all equal necessarily, right? But like within like Hinduism, they're not all equal, right? Not all Hindu gods are treated equally. But they are all equally divine, if that makes any sense. So if you actually had sort of like a Hindu hegemony, unlike something with a Christian hegemony, for instance, where the people in charge fundamentally believe that everyone else is wrong, with a Hindu hegemony, they're just like, oh, okay, well, we can all be right. And then if you claim that we're wrong, then, well, you're obviously wrong because we're also obviously right. The part of your dogma that says that you are unique and that you are the only people who are right, that part of your dogma is obviously wrong. But that doesn't discount the rest of the dogma, right? Like, weirdly enough, even, like, internally, like, Christian dogma is not actually very, very monotheistic. Because if you look at a lot of the wording of certain things, like the wording of I am the one true God and you shall have no other gods before me is very specific and actually implies that the first part of that is a lie, because it implies that there are in fact other deities that are there. It's just that they're not as good or important as the primary deity, if that makes any sense. So we can peace out here and send this very quickly. That's like 100 thingamabob or whatever. And we're going to go ahead and grant all these provinces over to the Western Expanse. But yeah, I would not use I would not use the current governance of any particular nation to. I wouldn't consider that to have any particular relevance to their viability as a global hegemon in like the 1700s, because there's no relation. The modern nations are very specific to some very, very specific founding conditions, right? The modern nation of India exists because the British conquered India, right? Before that, there wasn't a united India. So you had all these different nations. And that's true for a lot of things. A lot of things are these weird interactions between states that are not natural. Like if you look at most of the Middle East is not naturally originated states. They're states that were created in whole cloth by Europeans who thought they knew better than the locals who should be ruling them, or who created those states specifically as a means to prop up one ethnic group to exploit another ethnic group, right? Because that's the fundamental nature of most colonialism in Africa and Asia, and to a degree Afro-Eurasia. Colonialism is not that different from just ordinary plain old conquest. Like there's not a big difference between the way that England interacts with Scotland and the way that England interacted with India. Like there's not really a huge difference between the way England interacts with Wales and the way that it interacts with like Australia, right? Like these things are not they're not nearly as distinct as we would probably default to thinking. Because people think of colonialism as being like these fundamentally foreign conquests, and there must be something different because clearly British people are different than like Indian people. But it's like, well, no, they were all feudal nations, right? So it's all like all the stuff in all of these nations is the same kind of shit that the Europeans were pulling in Europe. They're just doing it remotely, and because they're doing it remotely, that means they have less ability to project power manually, which means they have to rely on more of these weird dynamics. Anyway, all of the modern nations are purely like constructs of the happenstance of history, and none of them are inevitabilities. If the Spaniards had actually bothered to colonize the Eastern American coast, then all of the Americas would just be Spanish, right? The entire Americas would be Spanish because no one else would be able to get anywhere. If you look at the Spanish Empire, their colonial empire at the time period that Britain started seriously colonizing, you basically have like interesting consequences. Yeah, corruption being related to tropical climates definitely does not pan out at all, because America is not tropical. There is some level of connection between the tropics and corruption, simply because most of the countries, if you think of most of the countries in the tropics, most of the countries that are specifically in tropical regions are countries that were created for the specific purpose of exploiting a local workforce, right? Most tropical nations exist as a means of basically, their fundamental creation was corrupt, right? They were created with the intent of exploitation. So it's harder for you to escape from that than it is to just not get put in that position in the first place, right? So, like, but when you look at a lot of the nations in the world, corruption is something that scales directly with size. Like, if you want to, like, an actual, like, direct correlation, the larger your country gets, the more corruption you have. It's just that simple. Because the more people who are involved, the less their interests directly align, and the more corrupt it gets. Like, America is legitimately one of the most corrupt nations in the world. And the reason that people don't think of it as corrupt is because all of the things that they do that are super corrupt, Americans don't realize that that's corruption, right? So, like, when, as an example, when your federal administrators, instead of working for the good of the country, are working specifically for the 20,000 people that voted them into office, that's corrupt, because this is federal level shit. They shouldn't only care about these 20,000 people. The perspective of those 20,000 people should obviously impact things. But if the only people that they care about are these 20,000, then instead of a nation that's actually attempting to do the best for everyone, you instead have a nation that is trying to do the best for the people who have the most at-risk, base, and basically no one else, because a politician doesn't care about their base unless their base is required to get them elected, right? That's why they care about their base. Anyway, it's all very interesting, but even the components of American democracy that we don't think of as corrupt are, generally speaking, inherently corrupt, and we just don't realize it immediately. So we can declare again if we want to get another war against the Ottomans. It does occur to me... Is this Ottoman separatists? No, this is Gilani separatists. This is so funny. So, who is this? Oh, Gilan is this guy. Okay, gotcha. Gilan is the people that we were just fighting. So, if we declare this war... the problem with declaring this war, now that I think about it, is that I can't set the Ottomans as a co-belligerent. We have a truce with the Ottomans for 6 years. Do we want... Can we get a war with you? Who is Avaria? Avaria is allied with the Ottomans. So if I declare on them, I do get into a war with the Ottomans. Do I want to put off this Western expansion, or do I want to keep it going? If I declare a war, and don't set the Ottomans as co-belligerent, then I'm going to get an inefficient truce. It doesn't matter. As long as they're still willing to come in, I don't have to ever care about my truce with the Ottomans. So I think what we're going to try to do here, and we're going to see how this goes, I'm going to try to declare on Karakoyunlu, and we'll come in against the Ottomans in Avaria, and basically we're going to peace out when we're ready to declare on Fars. And when we're ready to declare on Fars, we can just keep things going. Because it's not like the war is going to last that long. That would be crazy, but we can pretend. Let's see here. Where do you guys want to go? I have these guys blocking the strait. Is that what I want them to be doing, though? I have 100,000 troops ready and waiting up here near Karakoyunlu. I have separatists of various kinds that are going to be spawning. Boop. This is very close to fading. I could just pump my stability, actually. Let's do that. I'm going to boost stability to 2. That gets rid of these guys. It does not get rid of these guys. Never mind. Pumping it to 3 would, though. Do I want to pump to 3? I might want to pump to 3. That'll get rid of a lot of these separatists. So the Min separatists are going to spawn in a couple different provinces. How are my separatists over here? Any separatism? Yes, we do still have the risk of separatists spawning here, even with my army here. So we're going to prevent that from happening. Ming, how long do we have a truce with you? We have a truce with you for 4 years. So we have the potential ability to declare on the Ottomans, take a bunch of war score off of well, declare on the Ottomans, and get this going. Do we want to do that? I think we do. I think we should have our troops in a good position now. We have 9,000 over here who are currently slower than usual. We have Carcano. So I think we're gonna try to expand the Western Expanse and the Ottoman leaders. We could try to expand Bharat, Egypt, if we want, but this is really far away. So I don't think I want to expand these guys unless I have an easy in. I do probably want to try and take some more of this because these guys do not have very much. They have no overextension because it turns out they've already cored all this. So they've already cored all this shit, which is great. They've been stockpiling admin for this. We can go ahead and declare this war. It's going to go fine. We should be able to just pop in here, take control of all these forts in seconds, basically. Maybe not in seconds. This is not that many thingers. I'm actually going to set all these guys together. It's silly for me to not... I need them to be chilling together so that they can reinforce each other. This is mountains. So since this is mountains, I'm going to leave these guys here. Am I going to leave these guys here? Okay, I can go to there, which means that I can safely move this set of thingers over here, and then leave these guys here so I have less thinger. These guys are going to just chill here. I have, unfortunately, all three of my generals sitting in other locations right now. Do I want to move them to a safer spot? Yes, I do. So this is Highlands. We're at 7% there. We've taken control of this siege, and let's see here. These guys are doing their thing. This fleet is here. This fleet is here. Do I want to try to take that? I don't know that I do. Okay, I think we're going to take control of this province, because this province I need in order to get these provinces added to my Arabian thinger. And let's see here. Considering that they have 60,000 troops puttering around over there, I think I'm going to send these guys... That's silly. This army has no cannons. So these guys are fine. This army should have sent their cannons over there. They have 30,000 troops coming around this way. I'm actually going to set this army as attachable. Actually, that's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send one unit here and have that one unit be attachable. These guys are going to putter somewhere. So they've taken this siege already, and they're now going to be trying to look for where they're going to attack me. And this is a very good opportunity spot for them. Whoa. So we just won the Siege of Elam and the Siege of Tabriz on the same day. So that's useful. And one of those was their capital. Perfect. So we have the ability to go after Shervan now if we want, but I don't know that we want to. So taking control, let's find out. In terms of AE, what do we get if we take literally every province from these guys? Because I think these guys are small enough to annex in one war. They're not small enough to annex in one war in practice, because this would be way more overextension than I want. But I guess I could core some of it and I could give the others some. So this is 109 aggressive expansion, but importantly, even with the massive amount of aggressive expansion being caused here, it's with a very, very small number of people. So this is a 96% peace offer, and it costs us basically nothing. So That's very good to know. Let's see. From here, I think we are going to... we're going to want to merge these armies together, I think. Are we going to want to merge these? I could dive up to Shervin here, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have these guys go to Shervin and take control of this fort. These guys are just going to pop down here, because my thinking is that, yes, these guys were coming to try and deal with this. And these guys are going to merge together to deal with this army here. And we can send you guys up here first. There we go. So now we have one unit on each of these flanks. So these guys have the ability to dive here, but they're not going to because we want to dive this army and wipe them first. Nope. Okay. This army is going to just pop into here, take control of that province. And these guys are going to look around. So we're doing fine up here. We've won the siege of Shervin. So that's one more siege dealt with. This is, unfortunately, another mountain fort. I do not like mountain forts. Mountain forts need to be taken. So I'm going to just sit all of these troops on this mountain fort because I'm not paying full attention to my troops right now, and I don't want to lose them. So we're going to dive this army here. We do not actually need to bring this army in. I wanted them here just in case, but we're not going to need them, so we're fine. So this army is going to be defending, and we just won a battle. It's good. It's never good when you're in a battle that you didn't realize you were going to be in, but we successfully navigated that, no problem. We have twice as many troops here, and I don't think they're even filling up the combat line, so... That is minus 20% attrition, not too shabby. Let's see. Let's see. Alright, so I'm actually going to leave these guys together because I might want to dive these guys up here. They're in highlands right now, and highland forts are trouble for them. We're actually going to barrage this, and there's only 2,000 troops here. Do I want to just order an assault? Wonder how big of a... It's probably going to be super costly. I'm not going to bother. So they're probably going to win this, and they did. But we can just pop right back on top of it if we want. We just won the Siege of Erevan, which is good. That's a siege of actual Ottoman territory. And what do we want to do next? It's now 1713. And we have so many forts. So many freaking forts. Let's see. So many mountain forts too. Let's see. Oh, that's the place. This is wasteland. I'm gonna drop onto this coastal fort here. I won't get it like instantly by any stretch of the imagination, but I should be able to get it quickly enough that I don't have to worry too much. I'm gonna leave this army intact for the transportation portion of this. These guys probably need to stay intact even when they get here. The problem is that there are sufficient Ottomans here that they could probably win a fight against me, especially with that 3-star general there. So I don't think I want to dive this. I want to wait until they get into another fort. So we're gonna just pull back first, and then we will reinforce. So what are you guys doing now? I don't know where they're going exactly, so split this army in half, send half of them up here. It's marsh, which is pretty decent terrain. And we've got 3,000 troops attached to me there. Oh, these guys are sending an army to attack me. Can I get to there before they get to where I am? I can. So I'm actually just going to dive them here. This is desert. So we have it. Oh, geez. Where are you going? This is a problem. This is a big problem. So you guys need to pop down south to try and get to here. Can you get there safely? Can I secure this front? I need to secure this front is the thing. Do I even want to dive here? Yes, I do, because these guys, let's see, what's your military? You have a rank 24 military. So, yes. So you guys are going to here. This is grassland. You're locked in. We're going to dive. And we're going to move these guys. And we are, in fact, going to arrive in time, which means that these guys are going to be locking in to go here instead. How are we doing over here? We have a lot of Ottoman troops running around, but we do not have a huge amount of action yet. So this army is going to get wiped. There's not really any question of that. This army is also going to get wiped, question mark? No, this army's fine. This army just needs to pull back and go this way. This army is not going to try and save this army here. So, what the fuck? The way that the UI presents that information is clearly broken. Okay, so we just won that fight. We did not... I would say it's an overly enthusiastic to describe it as having won that fight, actually. So here we go. What do we want to do now? We've got their rank 3 fort here. So we do have control of that. So the question here is, where do we go from here? We could jump into there, but I think they're probably going to be coming this way. So we don't want to do that. Let me take a look at what stuff we can take. We can't take any of that. What we can take is we could take this fort, except we can't because negative reasons. Are we going to have to actually do an actual solid victory here in order to get any meaningful benefits? What I'd like is to, at the very least, take control of this thing over here. You guys need to actually do something. Can I dive you? I cannot dive their capital. Anything with a decent supply limit? This is 52. Okay. I suspect that most of their army is now in a position where I can actually be safe from them. So we're gonna go here. Whoops. Okay, so I said that, and then there's 30,000 troops here. So yeah, we're just gonna go sit on this fort on its own. I'm gonna take control of this fort over here. If we take control of this fort, we can do good business there. Where else is everybody? Unfortunately, I do not have my friendly friends carpet sieging very much right now. And these guys are going to order an artillery barrage. We just won this thinger. And do I want... Yes. Okay, so I think I know what I want to do. There's a lot of fort density right over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to send our troops over to these forts over here and try to take control of these. If I can, I don't actually need to take pretty much anything from Karakayunlu in order to have a successful war here. What I need to take from is the Ottomans, because the more forts I take from the Ottomans, the more each fort is worth in terms of war score. And that's really the most important factor in winning wars quickly, is just how many forts do you have so I can actually get credit for my victories. 22% war score now. These guys are at 35%, but this fort, again, is not actually that important. We lost the Siege of Erevan. That's fine. We just won this fight. This is mountains, unfortunately. So this fort is going the other direction. That's fine, though. We have this army. I think I can... What are you guys going to do? You guys are going to try to pop down here and get this siege undone. How much do we need? We only need 5,000 men? Okay. I would have thought that we had a lot more to do than that, but apparently not. Alright, so these guys are just going to siege down a bunch of my vassal forts, and they're going to do it very slowly. And this didn't tick, so I might actually be able to come in here and break this siege. Just won the Siege of Sham. We lost the Siege of Shervan. So that went quickly. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to split this army in half, send this half to here, send these guys in with the rest of the army. Unfortunately, I'm lagging a little bit right now. Where are you? Okay, that's weird. Let's see. So these guys will arrive in time. I do not know why I'm lagging all of a sudden. Will they arrive in time? Oh. Yep. Why am I lagging? Oh my god. This is crazy lag. My system performance has tanked today, and I'm not entirely sure why. I'm gonna have to look at that. So we just won the Siege of Tabuk. We can now do this. So one of the things that we need to do is get a nice line going from here all the way up here, or alternatively, we don't... Actually, I guess we don't need that at all. We need a line to the coast at the very least. Yeah, we do need a line here. I guess we could just take this ourselves temporarily. I think we're better off doing what? This region is very low density, so what we're going to do is we're going to think. It looks to me like the Ottoman army has wandered off somewhere. I don't know where they are. They're not sieging back the capital fort, and that's an important factor. These guys are going to split them into quarters. Pop over here. I think the Ottomans only had, like, this army here. I don't think they have another army in this area. So this section should be in the clear. And unfortunately, because we're not sieging things, we're not like doing a lot of carpet sieging right now, so we're not getting as good a vision as we'd like to get. But oh, there goes my performance again. Why is my performance going down so badly? I don't know what's going on my computer today. Hey, programming weird computer game stuff is productive as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, 2020. It is. We are getting up there in the years, to be sure. And just pop over here, except I don't want to, so we're going to go over here instead. Do I want to do that? No, I don't. Also, do we need to keep all these people here? Probably not, but we're going to keep them there anyway for now. You guys are just going to take this whole region by storm, I think. Oh, this is wasteland. So I guess I didn't need to do that. So never mind. This army is gonna just shelfer here. And you guys can do some business. No debate in Parliament. Let's fix that. And diplomatic annexation cost reduction is actually kind of nice. We're going to be reaching the point where we've maxed out on our client states soon. We've maxed out on our states passively. Once we reach the point where our too many territories modifier is maxed out anyway, then there's really not a lot of reason to worry about other stuff. So about 7,000. Let's see here. So we won the siege of El Karak. And we can now move on to the next siege if we want. Do we have a nice little line going down here? No, we do not. So, how do we want to handle this? Oh god, why am I lagging? So, unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to fix whatever the problem is with my computer somewhat soon. Because this is really bad. The lag that I'm experiencing right now is not normal lag for me. Let's see here. This is an army. We're actually going to move this together because these guys are pulling back, and we're going to let these guys up here do their job and just take control of more and more territory down here. Meanwhile, we have 50,000 troops here. Are they sieging the capital? No. Will they be sieging the capital soon? Unclear, honestly. Also, how did they get this with no actual army there? It's a little weird. They've got they never actually had enough troops there to do a proper, like, siege, but apparently 2 cannons is enough. Do you just need 1 cannon per fortification level to do that? I thought you needed more than that. So my provinces lack cores. So you are heading to Yabrin. Do we have... We're just going to take a new leader. Oh, look at that! Very nice. Actually, this fleet, this army, is not going to be doing any of that business. So we're going to replace this guy, who is doing a thing. This person is going to get this 3 siege general. And this army can now decide, do you want to dive these guys? Yes. Okay. So they are heading to Yabrin. And we can actually catch them before they get to Yabrin. Question. Nope. I'm not gonna risk it. We're just gonna do this. And apparently they can go somewhere else. So they're going to do that. I thought that they wouldn't be able to get out as fast as I would get in, but I'm apparently a crazy person. Misread the constantly shifting sands there. So what we're going to try to do here is... Just lost the Siege of Haleb. That was fast. They weren't even sieging that the last I checked. It's too bad I wasn't coming straight to Haleb. Do I want to just drop in on this? I guess I can. So... We don't have much of a manpower deficit right now. And we are slowly but surely getting ourselves to where we need to be. We are going to lock into going here. No, we're going to wait for them to go here, which is what they're going to do, probably. How are we doing over here? We have 35%, they have 14%. But they have another set of troops there, so we don't want to lock into doing anything there. I would generally like to avoid giving them the opportunity to actually win any of those sieges in time. But despite the fact that they have the ability to technically, it's not likely enough for me to justify doing anything about it right now. So these guys are just going to... I don't need this many troops here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this army. This army down here is currently going to fight these guys. And we're going to pop up here. Oh my god. So slow. That's a bad place. They're all bad places, honestly. Oh, we have a new idea available. Let's take cultural ties, question mark. Might as well. I'm not going to be coring anything with Thinger right now anyway. Alright, so they got supplies, thingamabobber. And let's dive this army. We should be good to go here. We just lost the Siege of Elam. That's not great. And they are actually sieging their capital back. So that is important. We just won the Siege of Haleb. We won a battle over here. And as soon as these tick down, we should, hypothetically, be in really good shape. So this is Drylands. I don't think I'm going to want to dive them here. But if I go next to them, they might get scared off, so we'll see. We're just going to wait for these to tick. Once these have ticked, I think we're going to just try to peace out. We have 29% war score, and that is a huge amount of territory right now. I mean, I guess it's not that huge, because... So, this would be a 27% war score victory just on its own. Oh, never mind, that's taking these two provinces as well. If I don't take any provinces from Karakayunlu, and only take provinces that are necessary, so like as an example, there's no reason to take those. These provinces I don't need. I only need the fort and things that get me adjacent to the fort. So we don't need Jeddah. Which one of these is the fort? This is the fort. So I don't need this province. It's just a 1-1-1, but we don't need it. So we take this. That's 12%. From here, we can't do this because we can't core it. But we can take this, and that would give us another fort over here. In addition to giving us a fort over here, it also gives us a nice thing. The key is, if we piece this out, where are we going next? I guess next would be Transoxiana. We do not currently have a truce with Transoxiana, so if we want to, we can dive Transoxiana. How does Astrakhan feel about us? They have no cares whatsoever. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares what's happening to the Ottomans. Oh, the Ottomans are in another war right now. Interesting. I only have 19% war score, though, against them. So I think what we're going to do is I think that we're just going to take this. I don't see much reason to fight more than this for right now. This will give me another 2 forts. It gives me access to the coast with Arabia, which is very useful. And it gives us... We're not going to be able to get to this fort, right? Not quite. We're so close. We're so close, though. The problem is that if I don't peace out now, then I lose the ability to get this fort, assuming that I can't just take these guys out before they... It's kind of a dumb move if I dive. Diving is not smart here. Are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do the not smart thing where we dive an army that's much larger than our own? We'll see. Defenders desert. These guys are actually going to take so long to get here that I might be okay. Oh, never mind. I should have set this as a forced march, I guess. These guys, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not going to take that long. Okay. We didn't roll very high either. That's a pretty high roll though. Okay, this is... I have to wait on the lag. God. I don't know what's going on with my system performance. My system performance is just like falling apart. We're just gonna wait for this, and I think once we finish this war, actually, that's gonna be we're gonna end it there because. Can you hear me? I don't even. It looks to me like my screen over here is lagging as well, so it's clear that. Interestingly enough, according to my thing over here, I don't have any dropped frames. I don't have any problems that would... It's so weird. It's like I clearly do not have 54 frames per second right now.